off, surely you are all fine. So now we are going to have a lesson with regard to business studies, paper one. So now this sort of question banks for paper one. So now these are the questions extracted from different set of past exam papers. So now they are very helpful if you are going to utilize them. So now if you still remember, we are just remaining with some few days, surely less than 5 days before you start your final examination. So you are writing on Wednesday. So now you should all be on the position to score level 7 for yourselves. Okay. So now we are going to remind ourselves on the legislations. So now, if you still remember, when you talk of legislations, we refer to rules and regulations that have been established by the government in line with disadvantaged people during the apartheid era. So if you still remember, during the apartheid era, most of our Black people were so disadvantaged. And the moment ANC came into power in 1994, it started revising all the legislations that were in place before ANC won the elections. So now, if you can actually pay attention, you can observe that most of these legislations, they cater for all groups of people, meaning they are all inclusive. Okay. Right. So now we are going to give the summary of all these 8 legislations. So now if you still remember, the legislations in South Africa, they are not only limited to 8, there are many. But the South African education system only selected these 8 legislations to be discussed to learners. Okay, right. So now I'm going to start with the Skills Development Act. So now Skills Development Act, it's a legislation or a law that has been established with the aim of enhancing the skills of the workforce that is already employed, meaning it caters for only people who are already employed. If you are not yet employed, you are still seeking for a job, then you don't form part of the Skills Development Act. So now under the Skills Development Act, we have a body like SETA, which is Sectoral Educational Training Authority. So now this body is the one that makes this act to actually easily be implemented by a different set of businesses. So now if you can actually recall, not each and every business can actually qualify to take part in this Skill Development Act, but only businesses that are able to generate $500,000 payroll or profit. So now, if that particular business is able to spend $500,000 or 500,000 on a payroll, then they can qualify to form part of the Skills Development Act. So now, grade 12s, you should also be in the position to know the roles of this SETA as the body that makes this Skill Development Act to run smoothly. You should also know how this SETA is actually being funded. So now this SETA, the role of it is to report to Director General. They are the ones that go on the ground to make sure that businesses that qualify and applied for this Skill Development Act normally follow the guidelines of the Act. So now if they find that there's a particular business that is failing to follow the guidelines of this Act, then they normally go and give the feedback or the findings to the Director General of the body. Okay, right. So now also you should be in a position to know how this SETA is being funded. SETA is funded through its services that it grants, and also it gets funding from donations from different set of government ministries, and it also gets funding from businesses. So now remember, for each and every business that is taking part in this Skill Development Act, they pay, as a business, it pays 1% of its payroll, and also 1% from the side of the employee. So it means that SETA in this regard is going to collect 2% from the business. So now still bear in mind that 1% comes from the business and 1% comes from the side of the employee. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the second law. So now the second law, we have Labor Relations Act. So now this one of Labor Relations Act, it has been designed in such a way that it promotes the harmonious relationship between the employer and the employee. So it means that this act, it's actually been designed to make sure that there's a good working relationship between the employer and the employee. That's all about Labor Relations Act. So now under this Labor Relations Act as well, we have different categories of rights. There are rights of the employer, and also there are rights of the employees. So now each and every employee must as well respect the rights of the employer. In the same manner, employers should respect the rights of the employees, so that processing of goods and services can actually be done easily without a lot of conflicts. Okay, right. So now another act that we can actually take into account is Consumer Protection Act. So now this one of Consumer Protection Act is the act that actually addresses the issue of the rights of consumers at different stalls or businesses. So now it means that consumers have a right to go to each and every shop and purchase whatsoever that they purchase. So now also I know in most cases, people do think that it is not allowed or illegal to return a commodity that you have actually bought from the business. And also, if you can actually check, most of the businesses, they are even having the posters where they write that no returning of goods and services are allowed, of which that is against Consumer Protection Act. So now as a consumer, if you bought a particular product and you are no longer happy with the product or the quality of the product or any defects on that particular product, you have a right to return that product from wherever you bought it. Okay, right. So now moving on, we have another act. So now another act that we have is Employment Equity Act. So now this Employment Equity Act, it addresses the issue of discrimination at the workplace. So now this act says no to discrimination. It says that no one should be discriminated at the workplace. You shouldn't be discriminated because of the color of your skin. You shouldn't be discriminated because of the language that you speak. You shouldn't be discriminated because of your age at the workplace, or you shouldn't be discriminated because you are a certain or you come from a certain tribe. No. So now it says that each and every person should be given the same treatment. So now it also continues to say that workers that perform the same work should always be given the same compensation. If we are hired and we perform the same roles, we should always be given the same compensation. Okay, right. So now we also have National Credit Act. So now this one of National Credit Act, it actually guides businesses that are into financial areas where they actually lend out money. So now this act says that before any financial institution can actually lend out money to anybody, they should first check the credit worthiness of that particular person. They must check if a person is indeed a good payer before they can engage into any laws. So now this National Credit Act, it works together with what we call National Credit Regulator. So now this National Credit Regulator, they are the ones that are normally on the ground to make sure that businesses abide by this particular law or rule. Okay, right, great house. So now let's move on to another act, which is Basic Conditions of Employment Act. So now this one of Basic Conditions of Employment Act, it shows the conditions that businesses should follow on their daily operations. So now it actually guides businesses on the conditions that they must always adhere to every day whenever they are in operation. So now one of the conditions is that there shouldn't be any forced labor or child labor. So now it also says that no one should be forced to work if they don't feel like working. And also no one should be at the workplace and executing duties if that particular person is 15 years downwards. So now it means that the moment the person is 15 years downwards, that particular person is considered as a minor and shouldn't be employed in any discipline or any area. It also addresses the issue of leaves. It says that each and every organization should offer leaves to its employees, meaning that employees, whenever they are off duty, whenever they are not executing their duties, they should always be compensated for the same amount of salary or wages that they get on a monthly basis. But as long as they have actually completed the leave form, so in that regard, then they will be allowed to take a leave. And also it addresses the issue of hours of work, that employees are allowed to work the maximum or normal hours of 8 per day. So now the moment it exceeds 8 hours per day, so then those workforce or employees should be compensated, because now they've actually went beyond the stipulated hours that should be spent at the workplace on daily basis. Okay, right. So now we also have broad-based Black economic empowerment. So now this one of broad-based Black economic empowerment is the act that has been established with the aim of catering for Black people who are actually disadvantaged. If you still remember, before broad-based Black economic empowerment, we're having Black economic empowerment. And Black economic empowerment, if you still remember, so now this one was catering for what? For all Black people. It was catering for all Black people. But now they revised it that to say, okay, let's actually cater for those ones that are disadvantaged or vulnerable. So now what does it say, this act? It says that at a workplace, Black people should also be given a chance to be part of the management, meaning they should be given that management control. So now also it says that Black people should as well own lands, own property, which is ownership. And also it says that Black people as well should be given the platform to enhance their skills at the workplace. So meaning that as Black people, if you are hired as well, you should be given that platform to enhance the level of skill that you have at the workplace if you want to advance it. And also it addresses the issue of the Black people supplying other businesses or being the supplier to other businesses. So meaning that Black people businesses as well should be given the platform to supply other businesses. Okay, right. So meaning in that regard, it means that under broad-based Black economic empowerment, we check the pillars. So now the pillars, we have management control, I did explain it. We have Skill Development Act or improvement, I did explain it. We also have enterprise development, I did as well explain it. Okay, right. So now the last one, we have compensation for occupational injuries and diseases, so which is quite. So now the major aim of ANC to come up with this act was actually aiming for those people who are at the workplace and then checking or taking into account their safety. So now it means that safety precautions or safety measures should always be practiced at different set of businesses. Okay, right. So now it says that if an employee gets injured or maybe get any disease at the workplace, compensation should be done. Okay, right. So now, grade 12, I have explained all of this all of these are 8 legislations. So what you must do, you should supplement that with the notes that you actually have. Okay, right. So now we are quickly going to check or overview of these legislations. Okay, right. So now if you check these legislations, we have the key concepts as well as the definition. I'll quickly go through this so that we can check if we are still on the same level. Okay, so now according to the notes, it says that the Skill Development Act, this is the main aim of this act is to improve the skill levels of people who are already employed in the workplace. I did say it. So it means that for those individuals that are not yet introduced to the workplace or they are not yet in any office, so they don't form part of this Skill Development Act. So now we also have a skill development levy or charge. So now this was introduced to ensure that businesses contribute to the development of skills. So now if you still remember by the start of this lesson, I did explain the issue of the contributions towards our SETA, where I said that the business contributes 2%. From this 2%, I told you that 1% comes from the employer and another percent comes from the employee. So now that is considered as a levy or a charge. Okay, right. So now we also have previously disadvantaged individuals or designated group. So now these previously disadvantaged individuals, remember, we are considering the apartheid era. So now during the apartheid era, people who were disadvantaged were Black people. So Black people were the ones disadvantaged. Okay, right. So now let's check setters. So now setters were established in order to implement and monitor the implementation of the Skills Development Act. I did explain that. Okay, right. So now this sector stands for sector education, training, and authorities. Okay, right. So now let's move on to our Labor Relations Act. So this act was introduced to promote simple procedures for the resolution of labor disputes in the workplace. If you still remember, I said that this act has been established with the major aim of producing a conducive environment that can exhibit a good relationship between the employer and the employee. Okay, right. So now let's check out the issue of collective bargaining. So now this collective bargaining, they are nothing but negotiations between employers association and the trade unions on matters such as wages or conditions of employment. So now what is this trade union? If you still remember, when you talk of a trade union, we refer to those organizations that are fighting for the rights of the employees at different set of work places. Okay, right. So now we also have what we call collective collective bargaining. So collective bargaining, these are negotiations between employers association and trade unions on matters such as wages or conditions of employment. I did explain it. Right. So now let's check our collective agreement. So now this is nothing but an agreement between the employer organizations and the trade unions. Okay, right. So now let's check the dispute. So now the dispute is nothing but a disagreement between the employer and the employee. So meaning this is a situation where the employer and the employee do not see eye to eye. Okay, right, great talks. So now let's check the bargaining councils. So now it is formed by registered trade unions and employer organizations so as to prevent or resolve labor disputes or labor conflicts. Okay. So now let's check Employment Equity Act. So we're saying that the main aim of this act is to ensure that equal job opportunities are given to all people regardless of race, culture, language, age, religion, disability, and the likes. If you still remember, grade 12, by the start of this lesson, I said that Employment Equity Act has been designed in such a way that the discrimination at the workplace should actually get rid of. So it means that this act says no to discrimination. You shouldn't be discriminated at the workplace because of the color of your skin or race. You shouldn't be discriminated at the workplace because of your culture, your norms, your beliefs. You shouldn't also get discriminated at the workplace because of the language you speak. You shouldn't also get discriminated at the workplace because of your age or because of the religion that you follow or because of your disability status. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check affirmative actions. So now it was designed to ensure that suitable and qualified previously disadvantaged individuals are given equal job opportunities. I'll come again. It was designed to ensure that suitable and qualified previously disadvantaged individuals are given also equal job opportunities. Okay, right. So now if you still remember, the previously disadvantaged individuals, it was black people during the era of apartheid. Okay, right. So now moving on, we have the basic conditions of employment act. So this act sets the minimum standard for employment to promote fair labor practices. So now I did explain this and the conditions that should be indicated. I spoke about forced or child labor, hours of work, also leave and the likes. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to compensation for occupational injuries. And this is Act. So now the Act gives employees who are injured or contract diseases while on duty the right to claim the compensation. But remember, if you get any disease or you get any injury while you are using the resources of the company for your own personal benefit, in that regard, the company is not obliged to pay you at all. Okay, right. So now we also have what we call broad-based Black economic empowerment. So this is the Act, or the Act was introduced to ensure full economic participation of previously disadvantaged individuals. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check our National Credit Act. So now this one of National Credit Act, it was actually introduced so as to protect consumers against unfair and reckless credit granting by businesses. Okay, I did explain that as well. So now let's check credit providers. So now when we talk of credit providers, we refer to all businesses that offer goods and services on credit. Okay, right. So now let's check National Credit Regulator. When we talk of the National Credit Regulator, we are talking of a body which is responsible for the regulation of the South African credit industry. So this means that all businesses that offer goods and services on credit must be registered with the National Credit Act. That is why whenever you go to different set of companies or different set of businesses that normally offer out credits, you always see on the wall the display of National Credit Regulator. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check debt review or debt counseling. So this is a debt solution targeted at South African consumers who are over indebted and struggling to manage their finances. So now, if you still remember, grade 12, even from the communities where we come from, or the suburbs where we come from, most of the individuals took credit. So whenever they qualify for a certain credit, they take it. So now you find that as time lapses, now they fail to settle whatsoever credit that they have. So now in that regard, that's where now the creditor or the debt counselor comes into play now to counsel such individuals. Because some of them, they end up dying because of depression. Some of them, they end up mistreating or ill-treating other individuals because of the status of their finances. Okay, right. So now you also have Consumer Protection Act. So now this is the act that is actually aiming to promote or protect economic interests of consumers by providing them with information so that they may actually make informed decisions. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the Skills Development Act. So now under the Skills Development Act, not only the Skills Development Act, we are going to check the purpose of this act. What is the purpose of this act? Why is this act in existence? Why did ANC officials choose to put Skill Development Act for businesses to abide by? Okay, right. You should also pay attention to the impact of this act. How does this Skill Development Act affect businesses? How does it affect the individuals? So now, even this impact, you must check both positive impact and negative impact. Okay, right. We should also pay much attention towards as well the compliance. Let's check under which circumstance should this business comply with the act. Then what will happen to those businesses that are failing to abide by this act? So some of the non-compliance can be that some businesses end up engaging in huge fines by the act or by the body set up. Okay. And also, let's check the penalties for non-compliance. So now for penalties for non-compliance, there are a lot of fines that are associated with businesses that are not abiding by the Skills Development Act. So now you also have compliance, which are the procedures that businesses should always follow in order for them to make sure that there is an enhancement of skills at the workplace. So now we also have setters. So now setters, you still remember, we said this is nothing, but what this is nothing but the sectoral education, training, and authorities. So now, if you remember, I also said that you must know how this setter generates funds. Where do they get funds from? And also, you must pay attention to National Skills Development Strategy. What is a strategy? A strategy is a technique or a method that businesses normally engage in order to process or manufacture goods and services. So now, meaning in this regard, when you talk of the National Skill Development Strategy, this is nothing but a technique or a method that businesses engage in to make sure that there is an enhancement of skills for their workforce at the workplace. So now we also have what? Human Resource Development Strategy. So now, if you still remember, whenever we talk about human resources, we refer to the department in a business that deals with firing and hiring. So now also that department that deals with hiring and firing, there should be a strategy that they apply whenever they want to recruit a new candidate. There should be a specific strategy or technique or method. Remember, different set of businesses can engage in the use of different set of techniques whenever they recruit a new employee. Okay, right. So now let's check the purpose of this act is to encourage businesses to improve the skills of their workers. Yes, the major aim for ANC to come up with this act is to make sure that businesses are encouraged to improve the skills of their workers. What will happen if there is an improvement of skills of the employees at the workplace? It means that the production of goods and services is going to be advanced in terms of quality, in terms of efficiency, meaning that now, the moment a business is having workers that are high skilled, they are not going to waste the resources whenever they manufacture goods and services. And also, if the workforce is skilled, it means that the quality of goods and services or the standard of goods and services is going to reach the satisfactory level of the buyers. Meaning, if the business is having higher skilled employees, the quality of goods and services that they are going to produce is going to be very high. And that on its own is going to attract customers. Remember, the major aim of starting a business is to generate profit. And for business to generate profit, it should have many customers. So customers, in most cases, they are actually being captured by the standard of the product. Okay, right. So now let's check the impact of this Skills Development Act on businesses. If we can check this impact on businesses, we are going to check the advantages and the disadvantages. So now, one of the advantages of this skill development, it encourages businesses to improve their skills of the workers. So this is the advantage on business. This is the advantage on business. It means that people's skills are going to be what? They are going to be improved. And the moment they are improved, then the business in that regard is going to benefit. Okay, right. So now let's check the danger of this Skill Development Act. Some of the dangers of this Development Act is that some of the employees, after they have acquired the skills, they can easily leave the organization and go look for cleaner pastures. So it means that in that regard, businesses would have wasted their own resources, because now this employee will have been sent to improve his or her own skill on the basis of the expenditures of the business. Now he's no longer going to give back to the business, but rather go and give back to other businesses aside. Okay, right. So now let's check actions are regarded as a non-compliant. So now under this Skill Development Act, providing employment services for gain without being registered as an employer. So now this is considered as one of the non-compliant. And also providing false information in any prescribed document can as well be considered as one of the examples of non-compliances, as well as preventing employees from signing for a learnership due to age or position. So now, if you still remember when I was explaining or giving the summary of all of these acts, I told you that one of them, which is Employment Equity Act, says no to discrimination regardless or with regard to age and the likes. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the possible penalties for non-compliance. So for businesses that are failing to comply with this act, what will happen to them? How are they going to what? How are they going to be what? To be approached by the setters and the bodies under Skill Development Act. Businesses that does not pay the skill development levy may not offer learnerships or claim grants from SDI. So if you still remember, I said it before that businesses normally contribute 2%. So from this 2%, 1% comes from the side of the employer and 1% comes from the side of the employee. So now if businesses want to take part in this Skill Development Act, but they haven't paid skill development levy, then that actually platform is not going to be granted for them. Okay, right. So now also labor inspector could order the business to stop operating if found guilty of illegal practices. Okay, grade 12. Let's check ways in which businesses can comply with the Skill Development Act. So now businesses should provide all employees with the opportunity to improve their skills. They shouldn't say that, okay, this initiative only caters for a certain group of people at the workplace or only caters for certain individuals. No, whosoever that wants to take part in this Skill Development Act, and normally they qualify, they should be given that platform, meaning this act is inclusive, regardless of your age, regardless of your race, regardless also of your religion, regardless also of your culture. If you are working for that particular organization and they are embarking in giving out learnerships. If you qualify, you should also be given that particular platform. Okay, right. So now let's check the roles of this setter. So now the roles of a setter. So now is to register learnership agreements. Remember we said that is to promote and establish learnership. That is its role. And also it reports to the Director General whatsoever that is taking place on the ground. Because SETA is a body that normally goes to different set of businesses and check if those businesses that have registered for skill development enhancement are following the guidelines as expected. If they don't follow the guidelines as expected, or if they follow the guidelines as expected, then setters will actually take the findings and then go report to the Director General on the basis of what is actually taking place on the ground. Okay, right. So now let's check how this setter is actually funded. So now funds are received for rendering their services. Remember, setter renders services. So now after rendering the service, then they get paid on that. And also they receive donations from different set of ministries. And also, if you still remember, you said that also the levies, skill development levies, can also be one of the examples of the funding of SETA. So now let's check the meaning of learnerships. We are saying that learnership is nothing but theoretical or practical training opportunities that can lead to a recognized occupational qualification that may include employment for a specified period after learnership is completed and results in qualification registered on the NQR. It includes structured component as well as practical work experience. Okay, right. So now let's check our national skill development strategy. So now we are saying that this national skill development strategy, it increases the skills of the public sector to improve service delivery. Remember, most of this public sector, if you check public sector, they have their own objectives in line. But if you check if those objectives are normally met on daily basis, you may find that is the story of yesterday. They are failing to achieve the set objectives. Why? Because of different set of elements. Number one is because of corruption. Number two is because of inadequate level of civil servant skills. Most of these civil servants are lacking skill. That is why you see public sector failing to achieve its mandate or failing to achieve its objectives. Also, corruption plays a major role in this regard, but the skill is the major player in this essence. Okay, so now let's check the human resource development. So now you're saying that this addresses skill shortages in the South African workforce. So it improves the supply of skills, develops short-term and long-term workforce skills, increases employee participation in lifelong learning. Remember, we said that the human resource development is in line with hiring and firing. But now, let's check on the issue of hiring or seeking for proper skills that are needed for businesses in line with the production of goods and services of a higher quality. We need to have skilled workforce. Okay, right. So now let's check Labor Relations Act. So now the purpose of this act is to promote fair labor practices between the employer and the employee. So now let's check the advantages. So now if you check the advantages, we said that it protects the rights of businesses in labor-related issues, and also it minimizes the disputes at the workplace between the employer and the employee. So now let's check the disadvantage of it, the bad of it. Then cost of labor increases because of legal strikes. The employers may not get a court interdict to stop a strike, or strikes actions always result in loss of production for which employers may not claim. Okay, right claim terms. So now let's check actions regarded as non-compliance by the Labor Relations Act. Preventing employees from joining the trade unions. At the workplace, each and every employee is entitled to join any trade union of their choice. As a business, you are not supposed to choose the trade unions for them. They can choose the trade unions for themselves. Because the moment you choose a trade unions for your workers, it means that you are now acting against the Labor Relations Act. So now let's check the penalties of this act. The employer may be forced to enter into a dispute resolution process. So now in this regard, it means that the moment businesses are not adhering to Labor Relations Act, so now the employer will be forced to enter into a dispute resolution process, of which if at a certain level or stage the employer is failing, then in that regard, the courts now also will be invited. That is why you see in most cases, some of the labor in different set of businesses here in South Africa, whenever they are ill-treated, they go straight to Department of Labor. If the resolution was not met by the employer and the employee. Okay, right click talks. So now let's check the discriminatory ways of this act. So it says that businesses must allow employees to form trade unions or participate in trade unions of their choice. Why is that the case? Because the moment a business chooses a trade union for the employee, it means that it has already established a relationship between that trade union and the business, of which now it is going to be very difficult for the trade union to execute their duties of providing the protection of the rights of the employees, because now the trade union and the business are now buddies or friends. Okay, right. So now let's check the rights of the employers and the employees in terms of Labor Relations Act. So now, on the side of employers, so form a bargaining council for collective bargaining purposes. Dismiss employees who engage in unprotected strike. So now the moment as an employee, you strike without following legal procedures, then in that regard, the employer has all the rights to dismiss you. Why? Because you just engaged in a strike without following proper procedures. Okay, right. So now let's also check the rights of the employees. So now employees have a right to embark on legal strikes as a remedy for grievances. Remember, a different set of business levels or workplaces. There are those individuals that are having their own grievances. So now remember, in order for you to raise your grievances in a proper manner, there are some guidelines to be followed. Don't just shout to your employee without following a proper procedure. Okay, right. So now let's check Employment Equity Act. So now we're saying that one of the purposes of this Employment Equity Act is to promote equal opportunity and fair treatment in the workplace. Okay, remember we said that this act says no to discrimination. Each and every individual should be given same dignity. Each and every individual should be given the same respect. Each and every individual should be given the same love at the workplace. Shouldn't be discriminated because of your age, culture, religion, and the likes. So now let's actually check the advantages and disadvantages of this act. So now this act promotes equal opportunity and fair treatment in the workplace. Meaning at the workplace, we are all going to be equal if we are working for the same company. We perform the same roles. Let us be paid or compensated the same amount of money, or if it's rewards, let it be the same. Let it be uniform towards each and every individual. Okay, right. So now let's check on the side of disadvantages. So now this Employment Equity Act, it is very expensive to train or employ someone who knows little about the ACT. So now also increased administration burden, as a business must compile employment equity reports every 2 years. Often positions go unfilled because there's no suitable employment equity candidate. So now those are one of the examples of what the impact of the Employment Equity Act. Okay, right. So now let's check actions regarded as non-compliance by the Employment Equity Act. So denying people access to the workplace based on gender, race, culture is one of the non-compliance. Remember we said that this act caters for everyone. This act what cries for inclusivity. Don't exclude anyone because this is a woman, this is a female, or this is an African, or this is a black people. Or now in terms of culture, say, no, because this one is a Sutu, or this one is a Tswana, or this one is a Zulu. No. Cater for each and every individual at the workplace, regardless of any particular type of background. Okay, so now let's check penalties or consequences for non-compliance. So now they actually many fines that may be imposed on businesses that fail to comply with its reporting obligations. Also, the Department of Labor may block non-compliant companies from doing business with the government, and businesses may be taken to the labor court for prosecution purposes. Okay, right. So now let's check ways in which businesses can comply with the Employment Equity Act. So now reasonable accommodation of people from designated groups, implement an employment equity plan as well can be one of the ways where businesses can easily comply with the Employment Equity Act. Employees must be paid equal for work of equal value, as said it. Businesses must guard against discriminatory openings and also promote equal opportunities and fair treatment for everybody. Okay, so now we are going to check what basic conditions of employment are. So now we must check the purpose of the basic conditions of Employment Act. One of the purposes of this act is to regulate the right to fair labor practices as set out in the constitutions, as well as providing clear terms and conditions of employment for employers and employees, while regulating the variations of basic conditions of employment where advances, economic development, and social justice are met. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to the next aspect where we are going to check the impact of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. One of the advantages is that employees may submit complaints to labor inspectors who can address it easily and fast. And also, it encourages consultation between the employers and the employees. Employers and employees should continuously consult one another on daily basis. There should be harmonious love between the employer and the employee. So now let's check the disadvantages of it. So now Basic Conditions of Employment Act forces businesses to comply with many legal requirements, which may increase labor costs. What do we mean? We mean that the moment Basic Conditions of Employment Act forces businesses to comply, you may find that now the businesses are going to engage in what? In a lot of expenditures when it comes to the payment of the wages and salaries of the workers, when it comes to the payment of the rent, when it comes to the interest that is supposed to pay after taking capital from different set of banks. So now also let's check the actions that are regarded as non-compliance by the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. So now Basic Conditions of Employment Act says no for businesses preventing workers from having access to employment contracts. Each and every business should offer or issue out employment contract to the employee. What is this employment contract? When we talk of employment contract, we refer to a written format that shows the agreement between the employer and the employee to work for a certain particular business. Okay, so now also we are going to check the penalties for non-compliance. What can be the result for those businesses that are failing to comply with the Skills Development Act? So such businesses can be ordered to pay compensation and damages to the employee. And also, the Director General may cancel the compliance order. Also, labor inspectors may serve a compliance order by writing to the Department of Labor. And remember, the moment the matter is inside the hands of the Department of Labor, then it is not going to be easy for that particular business not to engage in too much spending. Okay, right. So now, let's check ways in which businesses can comply with the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. Businesses should not employ children under the age of 16. Workers can take a meal break of 60 minutes after 5 continuous hours of work. Workers as well must receive double if they work during public holidays or Sunday. So according to this act, it says that the moment as an individual you go to work during public holiday, they must double your daily rate. If you go to work on Sunday in the same manner, they must double your daily rate. That's what this act says. And also workers can take up to 6 weeks paid leave during 36-month cycle. Okay, right. So now let's check out the provisions. We're saying that one of the provisions we have hours of work, where workers may not work for more than 45 hours in any week. So it means if it says 45 hours in any week, workers are allowed to work hours, 10 hours a day if they work 5 days or less per week. But workers may work 8 hours a day if they work more than 5 days a week. Surely I'm clear on that one, grade 12. I'm saying that workers may not work for more than 45 hours in a day. or in a week. But if they work 9 hours a day, if they work for 5 days or less per week, and also 8 hours a day if they work more than 5 days per week. So what does it mean? The more the days you work in a week, less hours you spend. The less days you work in a week, more hours you spend. Surely I'm clear on that one. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the annual leave. So now workers are entitled to 21 consecutive days annual leave per day or a day for 17 days work on hour for every 17 hours work. So an employer can only pay a worker in lieu of leave if that worker leaves the job. Annual leave must be granted within 6 months after the leave cycle ended. But this one over annual leave is so questionable. Why? Because some of the businesses or most of the businesses, they don't want to issue out this annual leave because they think the moment they issue annual leave to its workers, then the production or the productivity for that particular business is going to decline. That's what they are scared of. So now let's check sick leave. Workers are entitled to 6 weeks paid sick leave in a period of 36 months, meaning a period of 3 years. So workers receive 1 day paid sick leave for every 26 days worked during the first 6 months of employment. So a medical certificate may be required before paying an employee who is absent for more than 2 consecutive days, who is frequently absent. So let's check maternity leave. So now female workers are entitled up to 4 months leave. And also let's check family responsibility leave. An employer may require reasonable proof before granting leave. And also let's check parental leave, where employees other than mothers give birth are entitled to 10 days unpaid leave once per year. So now we also have adoption leave. So this leave applies to parents adopting a child less than 2 years of age. So now we also have commissioning parental leave. So now this leave applies to parents using a surrogate. So now we also have meal breaks and rest period. So workers must have a break of 30 minutes after 5 continuous hours of work. So now this can be reduced to 30 minutes by writing agreement when working less than 6 hours per day. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the overtime. Under the issue of overtime, workers must agree to work overtime. And also these workers cannot work more than 3 hours overtime per day or per 10 hours per week. So double the normal rate of pay for overtime worked on Sundays and public holidays. If you still remember, on Sundays and public holidays, they are considered to be double pay because those are very crucial days. Okay, right. So now we also have child and forced labor. So now we are saying that it is actually legal to employ a child younger than 15 years of age. And this is also illegal to force someone to work when they don't feel like working. So businesses may employ children over the age of 15 years if the employment is not harmful to their education, moral, or social development. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the issue of QUADA. So now the purpose of QUADA. So now QUADA applies to all casual and full-time workers who become ill or injured or disabled or killed due to a workplace accident or disease. So it provides for the establishment of compensation board function is to advise the Minister of Labor on the provision of QUADA. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the impact of this QUADA. So now this quota promotes safety in the workplace. But now when it comes to the disadvantages, claiming processes in line with the employee injured can be time consuming. It takes time for those injured to get compensation. Okay, right, great job. So now let's check the action regarded as non-compliance by the quota. So now employers who do not contribute to the compensation fund, employers who take long to process claims or delay the claiming process, and also the employers who prevent employees from reporting the accident or injury. So now those ones are considered as the guidelines of non-compliance by quota. So now let's check the penalties that are associated with non-compliance of this quota. Businesses may be forced to pay recovery costs required by the compensation fund, and employees may take their businesses to court for not registering them with the commissioner of the compensation fund. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the issue in line with ways in which businesses can comply with the quota. So now businesses should always submit returns of earnings by not later than 1 March annually. So it means that the returns on earnings should always be submitted by businesses before 1 March on each and every year. Okay, right. Also, the levies must be paid to the compensation fund, where businesses should provide a health or self or safety working environment. Okay, right, grade 12. So now we are going to check the broad-based Black economic empowerment. So now, broad-based Black economic empowerment, I said that this act has actually been established as the compensation of the Black economic empowerment. So it means that this one of broad-based Black economic empowerment is the adjustment of the Black economic empowerment. So now this one of broad-based Black economic empowerment, it outlines areas that would give the government a platform for bringing equitable spread of wealth, allows for the development of codes of good practices. Also, it aims at targeting inequality in the South African economy. Okay, right, grade 12. So now we are also going to check the impact of the broad-based Black economic empowerment. So now this impact that we are actually going to check, we are going to check the advantages together with the disadvantages. So now advantages is that businesses comply with broad-based Black economic empowerment. That is one of the advantages here in South Africa as we speak. But also it will be highly regarded on the Black economic empowerment scorecard. A good broad-based Black economic empowerment score will improve the image of the business. So now let's check the disadvantages of non-compliance. It means that processes may lead to corruption, nepotism, if it is not monitored properly. So now also non-compliance may have a huge financial implications for different set of businesses. Processes and procedures can as well be very expensive for businesses, as there are a lot of legal requirements to obtain a grading. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's actually check the actions regarded as a non-compliance by the broad-based Black economic empowerment. So now failing to implement affirmative action to meet broad-based Black economic empowerment responsibility, as well as refusing to award tenders to Black suppliers who are Black economic empowerment compliant. Okay, right. So now, grade 12, let's check the penalties or the consequences of non-compliance to broad-based Black economic empowerment. Businesses
business licenses may not be renewed and authorization may not be issued, meaning that the penalty could be a fine of up to 10% of the company's annual turnover, and businesses may face imprisonment for non-compliance and fronting practices. So now let's check the ways that are actually in line with the broad-based Black economic empowerment. Develop small businesses, meaning SMMEs through ESG. So what does it mean? It means that small, micro, medium enterprises should always be established so as to improve the standard of living of the communities in which they operate. And businesses must appoint Black people in managerial positions. Okay, right. So now let's check the implications of these broad-based Black economic empowerment pillars. One of the pillars, we have control management. So meaning businesses must ensure that transformation is implemented at all levels. And also we have skill development, meaning businesses must engage Black employees in skill development initiatives. And we also have ownership. Many businesses should include Black people in shareholding, partnerships, and franchises. And we also have enterprise and supplier development. Many businesses must create jobs as promotes local manufacturing. So now we lastly have social responsibility or socio-economic development, meaning that businesses should distribute scarce resources to selected beneficiaries in communities. So now let's check the difference between Black economic empowerment and broad-based Black economic empowerment. If you check, when you talk of the Black economic empowerment, it is a government policy which may not be enforced. But now on the side of broad-based Black economic empowerment, it is an act that is enforced and must be compiled with businesses. So now also under the side of Black economic empowerment benefits only a few previously disadvantaged people in an economy, while broad encourages a wider group of previously disadvantaged people, including people in rural areas, to participate in an economy. Okay, right. So now let's quickly check our National Credit Act. So now when we check National Credit Act, one of the purposes of the National Credit Act, it makes provision for the establishment of the National Credit Regulator. So that is one of the purposes. And also it ensures that consumers know what is included in their credit contracts. Okay, right. So now let's check the impact of the National Credit Act on businesses. So now on businesses, authorized credit providers may attract more customers, also low better debts resulting in better cash flow. So protects businesses against non-paying consumers, also increases cash sales as credit can only be granted to qualifying customers. Okay, right. So now let's check actions regarded as non-compliant by the National Credit Act. So now charging different interest rates to customers based on gender or race. Also not providing reasons for credit refusal, as well as refusing credit to customers based on gender or race. Okay, right. So now let's check our penalties or consequences for non-compliance to the National Credit Act. So now businesses may not charge any fee or interest, other charges under the specific credit agreement. So now the business may not demand payment, sue or attach the client's or consumer's assets. Okay, right. So now let's check ways in which businesses can comply with the National Credit Act. Disclose all the costs of loan. No hidden costs should be changed or charged or added. No credit providers must be registered with the National Credit Regulator without the notice of NCA. Okay, right. So now let's check the rights of our consumers according to National Credit Act. So consumers have a right to obtain reasons for credit being refused. If you go and apply for a credit and you find that that business doesn't want to grant a credit for you, you have a right to ask, why am I not being granted a credit? So that they are obliged to give you that particular information. They shouldn't deprive you any information if you want to access or consume such information. And also apply for credit and be free from discrimination. Okay, right. So now, credit talks, let's check let's check the Consumer Protection Act. So now, Consumer Protection Act, each we check the purpose. It's to promote responsible consumer behavior, strengthens the culture of consumer rights and responsibility, as well as allowing for consumers and businesses to resolve conflicts in a fair manner or fair share. Okay, right. So now let's check how this Consumer Protection Act can impact businesses. Businesses under the advantages may be safeguarded from dishonest competitors, as well as businesses may gain consumer loyalty if they comply with the Consumer Protection Act. So now, K-Talks, let's check the disadvantages of this act. Confidential businesses information may become available to competitors. That one is so bad. Also, businesses must disclose more information about their products or services. Penalties for non-compliance may be very, very high under Consumer Protection Act. Okay, right. So now let's check actions regarded as non-compliance. So now treating consumers differently based on gender, age, and race. That is in non-compliance at well. So now each and every individual at the workplace should be treated equally, should be treated with the same love, should be treated with the same energy, should be treated with the same respect, regardless of your religion, regardless of your culture, your language, and the likes. Okay, right, great talk. So now let's check the penalties or the consequences in line with the non-compliance. What happens to those businesses that completely fail to abide by Consumer Protection Act? Businesses may face fines or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 10 years. Now, also a contract be rendered void, or a fine or a term of direct imprisonment may be imposed. So in this regard, government agencies may conduct audits or even enact files or even dissolves your business entirely. Okay, right, great talk. So now let's check ways in which our businesses can comply with the Consumer Protection Act. So now businesses should always disclose prices of all products on sale. All agreements must provide a 5-day cooling off period. Implement measures that will facilitate complaints, or suggestion boxes should be placed in different platforms. Make sure that you have many suggestion boxes in that particular building of your business, where an individual from outside or an individual from the inside of your business, if they have any opinion, they can just write their own opinion and drop those opinions inside the suggestion boxes. So in that regard, it means that your business will be following the guidelines of the Consumer Protection Act. So now let's check the rise of Consumer Protection Act. So now consumers have a right to choose. Consumers have a right to choose suppliers and goods or the shop to buy from. Consumers also have a right to privacy and confidentiality. Many consumers have a right to restrict unwanted direct marketing. They can object to unwanted promotional emails and telesales. And also they have the right to lodge complaints about the sharing of their personal details. So now also consumers have a right to fair and honest dealings. Many suppliers may not use physical force to consumers to buy their product, or suppliers may not give misleading or false information of which this one, most of businesses, if not all, they normally love giving false information, false adverts. Whenever they want to win customers, they give false adverts. So that on its own, it's a wrong approach, because in the long run, it is going to drive customers away from buying your products. Okay, right. So now also we have what? We have right to information about the products and agreement, meaning that consumers have a right to contract, they have a right to each and every what product information. You shouldn't deprive them any information. And also consumers have a right to fair or responsible marketing. Business should not mislead consumers on pricing, benefits, or use of goods. All information related to the product, expiry dates, ingredients of the product should always be disclosed, even on the package of the product. This information should be disclosed. Show the product is best before which day. Show the expiry date of the product. Show the ingredients as well that have been used to manufacture that particular product. So that is the information that we are saying should be disclosed to the consumer. So now also the consumers have a right to good quality and safety, meaning consumers have a right to demand quality service or goods. They have a right to return faulty items if the fault occurs within 6 months after purchasing the item. These consumers may receive a written warranty. Okay, right. Also, the consumers have a right to accountability from the suppliers, meaning consumers have the right to be protected in labor agreements. Businesses should honor credit vouchers and prepaid services. So also consumers have a right to reasonable terms and conditions. What do we mean? We mean that businesses should provide consumers with written notices of clauses that may limit consumers' rights. Businesses may not market or sell goods at unfair prices. So right to equality in the consumer marketplace. Businesses should not limit access to goods and services. Businesses may not vary the quality of their products or goods or different consumers. Okay, right, great talk. So now we are going to check Employment Equity Act. Okay, with Employment Equity Act, we are done. So now, great talks. So we are going to check the set of the activities given. So there are some activities given. So now also we'll be discussing the activities given. Okay, right, great talk. So now let's check business strategies. What is this business strategy? When we talk of a strategy, we refer to a technique, a method that businesses use in order to produce goods and services, or businesses use in order to manufacture or process goods and services. So now businesses use different set of strategies whenever they produce goods and services. So now let's check out the strategic management process. So now under strategic management processes, what we must do, we must know that a business should always have a clear vision, mission statement, and measurable objectives in place. Tools available for environmental scanning may include a SWOT analysis. It can also include Paras 5 forces model, pestle analysis as well. So now when you talk of SWOT analysis, you're saying that for a business to design its own methodology or strategy or method, it should know its own strength. It should know its own weakness. It should know its own opportunities as well as threats or the competitors. And also the Paras 5 forces model. So in this regard, businesses must know the power of the buyer. Businesses must know the power of the suppliers. Businesses should also take into account the power of the competitors before you can design your own methodology. So now again, on the issue of the pestle, businesses, before they can engage into any form of technique or methodology, they must first check the political landscape of that country. How is the political landscape of the country? How is the economy of the country? How is the society of the country? How is the technology of the country? How are the legal aspects of the country or the legal guidelines of the country? How is the behavior of the environment where the business operates in before a business comes up with any particular strategic management style? Organize the business resources and motivate your staff. Implement selected strategies by communicating everything to your stakeholders. So now remember, when we talk of stakeholders, we talk of those people that are taking part in the processing of goods and services. Meaning in this regard, we check the customers, we check the employees, we check as well the employer. Those are the stakeholders that should always be addressed to. Okay, grade 12. So now, I explained the SWOT analysis. I explained as well the Potter's 5 model. I explained as well the pestle. So now, I explained the pestle as well. So now, grade 12, let's as well check types of a business strategy. So now we are going to discuss the issue of our business strategies. So now we have integrated business strategies. So now this integrated business strategy, it has been established with the aim of improving profits at the workplace. So now how does a business engage this integration strategy? So now they use forward integration strategy, backward integration strategy, as well as a horizontal integration strategy. So now in this particular strategy, remember a business wants to generate more profit. So under vertical strategy is where a business takes over, under forward vertical integration strategy is where a business wants to take over its distributors. All those agencies or agents that are distributing the products similar to the product that the business is selling, the business takes over all of those distributors. So now, why is the business doing this? Because it wants to maximize the profits collection. And then we also have backward integration strategy. This is the approach where a business takes over its suppliers. And then we have horizontal. Horizontal is when the business takes control of other businesses in the same industry. That is horizontal integration strategy. A business takes control of other businesses in the same industry. What is this industry? When we talk of a word industry, we are referring to different set of businesses or group of businesses that are selling the same product, or different set of businesses that are rendering the same service. We call them an industry. Okay, right. So now we also have intensive strategy. As well, intensive strategy, businesses use intensive strategies. Why? Because they want to maximize the profits collection. So now, under these intensive strategies, we have market penetration. Market penetration is when a business is new in the market. And when they are new in the market, they are not known. They introduce themselves by selling their products with affordable prices. And the moment our consumers or buyers are aware that they are in operation, that's when now they increase the prices of their products. So now we also have market development. Under market development, the product is already in existence. Now what the business does, they go to check the new market where they are going to sell their existing product. And we also have the product development. Product development, it means that this is a new item. And this new item, it is going to be sold in an existing market. The market is already there. People are aware that this particular name of the business is already in operation. But now this business is introducing what? Is introducing a new product to what? To the buyers. Okay, right. So now let's check the advantages of intensive strategies. So now remember, intensive strategies is saying that it has been designed with the aim of improving the profits. So now one of the advantages is that regular sales to existing customers may increase. It is an advantage. Also gain customer loyalty through effective promotion campaigns. Okay, right. So now, grade 12, let's check diversification strategies. In the same manner, diversification strategies, they have been used by businesses to make sure that they generate or they maximize their profits. These strategies, these techniques, these methodologies, businesses apply them because they want to increase the profit margins that they normally collect. Okay, right. So now let's check our concentric diversification. The business adds a new product or service that is related to existing product and which will appeal to new customers. And then we also have a horizontal diversification strategy where a business adds new products or service that are unrelated to existing products, but which may be appealing to existing customers. We also have conglomerate diversification where the business adds new products or service that are unrelated to existing products, which may appeal to new groups of customers. Okay, great, Tops. So now let's move on to the advantages of this diversification strategy. We are saying that it increases sales and business growth, also improves the business brand and image, as well as reducing the risk of relying only on one product. Okay, right, grade 12. Now let's check defensive strategy. So now this one of defensive strategy, it's a strategy that businesses apply. Why? Because they are no longer operating properly. They are no longer making enough profit. And the moment they see that the profit collection has declined and now they are struggling, then they opt for this strategy. They apply this strategy because it's bad. They don't apply this strategy because it's good. Okay, right. So now we have divestiture and then this divestment. So now this one, we are saying that a business is selling off divisions or product lines with slow growth potential. They check those divisions or products that are very slow in terms of growth, then they cut them out. So now we also have liquidation, where the business is selling all assets to pay creditors due to lack of capital. And lastly, we have retrenchment, where terminating the employment contracts of employees for operational reasons. Why are employees being retrenched? Because now the business is no longer making profit. So there's no need for a business to have huge number of employees while the level of productivity is very low. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the steps in strategy evaluation. What you must know when you evaluate the strategy: examine the underlying basis of a business strategy. Look forward and backward in the implementation process. Compare the expected performance with the actual performance. Measure business performance to determine the reasons for deviations and analyze these reasons. Take corrective actions so that deviations may be corrected. Set specific dates for control and follow up, as well as drawing up a table of the advantages and disadvantages of the applied strategy. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's continue and check what we have in store. Okay, right. So now we are going to check on another topic. Remember, we are still preparing for the paper one that you guys are going to write next week, Wednesday. So now what you must do, grade 12, make sure that the resources that we discussed today, they are going to benefit you in the long run. Okay, right. So now we are going to check business sectors and environment. What is an environment? An environment, we refer to the surroundings of the business. And the surroundings of the business can either be inside the business premises or outside the business premises. And we also have the business sectors. When we talk of a sector refers to a portion of economic activities. So meaning we have the categories of the portions of these economic activities or business activities. We have a primary sector, where a primary sector deals with what? Deals with extraction of raw materials and natural resources. We also have secondary sector, where it processes raw material into finished goods. We also have a tertiary sector, where services are actually being rendered. So now we have different types of the environment. We have micro environment, which is the inside surrounding of the business. And we also have the market environment, which is the environment which exists immediately outside the business. And we have macro environment, which is actually the outside part of the business. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the types of business sector. So now we are saying primary, it deals with what deals with extraction, where we have an example of coal, extraction of coal, gold, fish, and as well as what engage into agricultural livestock. So now we have secondary sector, where we say that manufacturing takes place here. So an example, we have manufacturing of clothes, we have also food processing, we have building, constructions, and secondary sector. So now when it comes to tertiary sector, we can refer to the likes of distribution, banking, insurance, tourism, transportation, entertainment, retail, and legal services. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the possible challenges and the business environment. So now business environment and the challenges and the extent of control. So now when we talk of the extent of control under micro environment, the business doesn't have any, micro environment, a business has a control over it. Why does a business have a control over micro environment? Because these are the surroundings of the business that are found inside the business premises. And we talk of the components such as employees, such as the management structure, such as the production levels and the likes. So now we also have macro environment. Macro environment is the environment that is found totally outside the business premises. And in this environment, we refer to the likes of climate change. We refer to the likes of politics and regulations. And then we also have the market environment. So market environment, we have the likes of consumers, suppliers, and the likes. So now when it comes to the micro environment, the extent of control is full control. Why? Because all of these components are found inside the business premises. When it comes to market environment, it is semi-control or partially control. Why? Because part of these components are found inside the business premises and part of it are found outside the business premises. And lastly, we have what we call micro and macro environment. Under macro environment, we have no control at all. Why no control at all? because these are the initiatives that are taking place outside the business premises. So that is why we are saying that a business doesn't have a control at all. So now let's check the human resources. When you talk of the human resources, here we refer to what? Here we refer to the department in the business that deals with hiring and firing. So now, grade 12s at this level, we are going to concentrate only on the issue of hiring part. But if you are going to further your studies in business studies and management or business-related courses or programs, then you are going to learn more on firing part. Okay, right. So now we are going to check the analysis under this. So now under this, we are going to check job analysis. When we talk of the job analysis, we are referring to what? We are referring to job specification and job description. When we talk of the job specification takes into account the skills, knowledge, and experience for the particular position you are applying for. So meaning job specifications are the requirements for the position you are applying for. But job description, what it describes the duties and the responsibilities that an employee will be performing in a organization. Okay, right. So now we are going also to check what we are going also to check the issues in line with recruitment. We are going to check types of recruitment where we have internal recruitment and external recruitment. Internal recruitment is when existing employees are recruited to fill the vacancy in the organization inside the business. And also when it comes to external recruitment is when the job applicants are recruited from the outside of the business premises. So now let's check the sources of internal recruitment. So under this one of our internal recruitment, that's where now the promotion is actually going to take place. And also that's where the transfers are going to be considered, as well as internal referrals, as well as internal advertisement. But when it comes to external recruitment, we are going to check the issues in line with newspapers, billboards, also headhunting and the likes. So now let's check out the impact of this recruitment. So now remember, grade 12, when we talk of the impact of the recruitment, it means that you are going to check both the advantages and disadvantages of the act. So now one of the advantages is that it is faster if the candidates are known, and also no extra cost involved in advertising, because already there's people already employed or working for this particular organization. We also have the disadvantages where existing relationship could make it difficult to judge the employee objectively. Also could cause resentment among employees who are not promoted. So now let's check out the impact of this external recruitment, the advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is that less chances of being biased are owing to existing relationship. Remember, these are new people at all. The business is not familiar with these people. So now it means that also these new employees can bring fresh ideas into the organization. So now let's check the disadvantages of this. Takes longer to fill the vacancy and extra costs are involved, meaning advertising costs, outsourcing also could decrease morale of current employees. Okay, right. So now let's check out the selection. So now under selection, we are going to check out the selection procedure. So now in a business, determine fair assessment criteria on which selection will be based. Applicants must submit the application forms or curriculum vitae of the certified or personal documents or proof of qualifications, and also compile a short list of potential candidates identified, and after that invite shortlisted candidates for an interview. So now let's check an interview. So now let's check an interview refers to a conversation between a job applicant and a representative and employer, which is conducted to assess whether the applicant should be hired for that particular job. What is the purpose of this? One of the purposes of the interview is to determine candidates' suitability for the job, also to check if there's a good match for the information given by the applicant on their CV, so as to evaluate the skills or the characteristics of the applicant. Okay, right. So now let's check the roles of the interviewer before the interview. What should the interviewer, which forms the part of the panel, what should they do before they can head the interview? The interviewer should always develop a core set of questions based on the skills, knowledge, or the ability required. And also the interviewer should check the applicants or verify the CV of every candidate for everything that they may need to be explained, as well as book and prepare the venue for the interview. Okay, right. So now also we are going to check the roles during the interview. During the interview, then the role of the interviewer during the interview, allocate the same amount of time to each candidate, introduce members of the interviewing panel to each candidate, or also make the interview feel at ease, also make eye contact and have good body posture or good body language. And also, let's check the role of the interview in line with the interviewee. So now to greet the interviewer by name with a solid handshake and friendly smile. Also listen carefully to the questions before responding, making eye contact and have good body posture or language. Show confidence and always wear a positive smile and attitude. Okay, right. So now, K-12, let's check the contract. So what is the contract? Is a legal binding written agreement between the employer and the employee. What are the aspects that should be considered in a contract? Name and the address, contact details of the employer, personal details or address of the employee, job title, position, job description, and job specification, hours of work, salary, as well as determination of the contract, leave conditions, and the signature of the employer and the employee. So now let's check the legal entities of the employment contract. Both parties must have contractual capacity to enter a contract. Aspects of the employment contract can be renegotiated during employment. The employment contract should include a code of conduct and code of ethics. It may not contain any requirements that are in conflict with the basic conditions of employment act. So now let's check the reasons for the termination of employment contract. Resignation, retrenchment, dismissal, retirement, and redundancy. This can be one of the reasons of employment contract. Okay, right. So now let's check out the induction. What do we mean by induction? Induction refers to a process of which new employees are being shown around the business premises. What are the purposes of this induction? It introduces new employees to management colleagues to establish relationships with fellow colleagues at different levels, create opportunities for new employees to experience or explore different departments, also explain safety regulations and rules so that new employees will understand their role, responsibilities in this regard. Okay, right. So now let's check the aspect that should be included in an induction program. Safety regulations and rules, overview of the businesses, and also the information about the business products or service. And also we are going to check the benefits or the advantages of induction. New employees who are familiar with the business procedures or rules may easily adapt to his or her own new work environment, meaning that new employees learn more about the business and understand their role in the business, what is expected in the job. So also increased productivity and quality of service or performance. Okay, right, grade 12. So now in this regard, we are going to check the placement. What is this placement? It refers to a process matching the skills and abilities of an applicant to the requirements of a vacant. So meaning that you are going to check the procedures in line with the placement. So now placement outlines specific responsibilities or expectations of a new position, where it determines the employee's strengths, weaknesses, skills, interests by subjecting to various psychometric tests. So determine the relationship similarities between the expectations of the position and the competitiveness of the new employee. So now let's check the importance of training, meaning the importance of skill development. The employee who receives the necessary training is more able to perform in their job. The investment in training that company makes shows employees that they are valued. Okay, now let's check salary determination. So now we have a piecemeal salary determination and time-related salary determination. So now piecemeal salary determination is where workers are compensated according to the number of items or units produced, while under time-related remuneration, it's where workers are actually compensated with regard to the time they spend at the workplace or the time they spend to complete a task. Okay, right. So now we are going to check the link between the salary determination and the basic conditions of Employment Act. So now the basic conditions of Employment Act sets out conditions that ensure fair labor and human resource practices. According to the basic conditions of Employment Act, businesses may use different remuneration methods so as to pay their employees. So now this payment of salaries should be based on whether the employee is permanent or employed on a fixed contract basis. So now we are also going to check the fringe benefits. So now let's check the examples of these fringe benefits. We have the likes of a medical aid, pension or provident fund, travel allowance, cell phone or housing allowance, cafeteria provided free meals, performance-based incentives, as well as unemployment insurance fund. So now let's check the impact of this fringe benefit. So now the advantages of this fringe benefit is that attractive fringe benefits package may result in higher employee retention or reduces employment turnover. So it also reduces the 10 staff over and new employees have been inducted properly. So now let's check the negative side of it. Fringe benefits are additional costs that may result in cash flow problems, meaning administrative costs increase as benefits need to be correctly recorded for tax purposes. Okay, right, creditors. So now at this juncture, we are only left with quality of performance. So now when we talk of the quality of performance, we are actually referring to what? Referring to the performance by each and every department to make sure that they execute their duties so that the expected standard of the product is met. Okay, right, great talk. So now it means that in this regard, we are going to check what is quality. Quality refers to a good or a service ability to satisfy a specific need, and also the efficiency of a service and the ability to provide an effective outcome without too many delays. So now let's check quality control. Quality control is nothing but a system that ensures the desired quality is met by inspecting the final product, only the final product. But when it comes to quality assurance, it being carried out during and after the production process of a product. Okay, right. So now, moving on, we are going to check. The benefits of a good quality management system. So now, what are the benefits of good quality management system? It means that time and resources are going to be used efficiently. Product and services are constantly improved. Vision and mission may be achieved. So now, increased market share and profitability. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check the quality indicators for each business function. We are going to check our purchasing function. Purchasing function, one of the quality indicator for purchasing function is that buy raw materials in bulk at the raw prices. So now if you want to master purchasing function, make sure that one of the indicators is buying raw materials in bulk at an affordable prices. Also, let's check the marketing function. Marketing function, increasing the market share with differentiating products to attract more customers. So now we also have production function, where accurately calculate the production cost, empower workers so that they can take pride in their workmanship. And also check the public relations, where providing regular or positive press releases and then can result into what positive feedback from public surveys on business image. So now let's check administration function. Fast and reliable data capturing and processing system that handle complaints quickly and effectively. So now we also have financial function, where negotiate better interest to keep financial costs down, so as to keep financial records up to date to ensure timely and accuracy. Then we also have human resource function, where we have fair and equitable selection process to offer what performance incentives for staff to enhance productivity. And lastly, we have what? And we also have management, general management, where we actually learn about or understand changes in the business environment on an ongoing basis and set direction and establish priorities for the businesses. Okay, right, great talk. So now in this juncture, we have landed on total quality management. When we talk of total quality management, it refers to all aspects of quality within the business. It is the responsibility of everyone in the organization, from top management to general workers. So now the focus is on improving the quality of products and services to satisfy the needs of customers. So now let's check the elements of TQM, total quality management. One of the elements, we have continuous skill development or education and training, where employees who lack skills should be trained in line with their job description, regularly evaluate the effectiveness of the training. And you also have total client satisfaction, where the business should understand current and future customer needs so that customers will be satisfied if products and services meet their needs, requirements, and expectations. Okay, right, great talk. So now we also have adequate finance and capacity, meaning suitable equipment should be available for testing and maintaining high quality standards. Funds should only be used to buy the best quality raw materials to prevent faulty products. Okay, right. So now we also have a continuous improvement of processes and systems. So now processes and systems are the flow of activities implemented to create or deliver products and services to customers, meaning employees need to understand the operating system and the services delivery system, which give the details and specific instructions on the improvement of the systems and processes. So now let's check the application of our PDCA model. So where P stands for plan, and then we have D stands for do, and then we have C stands for check, then we have A stands for act. So now, meaning that you should, for example, under plan, we should have what Easy Dairy Farm should identify the problem, develop a plan for improvement, and do Easy Dairy Farm should do as planned. Then also Easy Dairy Farm should assess, plan, establish, and check. Then under action, it should institutionalize the improvement and devise strategies on how to continuously improve. So now we also have monitoring and evaluation of quality process. Monitoring and evaluation system and quality assurance process should be in place to prevent product defects and wastages, which allow for quality control checks and procedures at key production points in an easy manner. Okay, right. So now we are going to check the impact of our TQM element on larger businesses. So now the advantages is that in line with continuous skill development or education training, the human resource department is dedicated to skill training and development. But under these advantages, poor communication system may prevent effective training from taking place. So now let's check the client satisfaction. Advantages: the business use market research to measure or monitor customer satisfaction or analyze customer needs. But under the disadvantages, we see that employees in large companies rarely meet their customers and do not always have a clear idea of what will satisfy their customers. So now when you check adequate financing and capacity, one of the advantages that they can afford to have systems in place to prevent errors in processing or defects in raw material product. And also the risk is usually very high as one of the disadvantages. So now let's check the impact of continuously improvement of processes and systems. So now one of the advantages is that the businesses have resources to check on quality performance in each and every unit. But the disadvantage can be that the implementation of new systems and processes can be time consuming. And because there are many employees to whom the system should be sold and communicated. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's take the impact of monitoring and evaluation of good quality processes. We are going to check the advantages and disadvantages. So now let's check on the advantage side. It may be equipped to get things done right the first time and improve performance and maintaining high quality standards. But under the disadvantage, it is often takes longer to detect problems or respond to weaknesses. It is not viable to check quality of all the products. Okay, right. So now let's check our quality cycle. Quality cycle will refer to group of workers who do the same or similar work, who meet regularly to identify, analyze, and solve quality-related problems. So now let's check the importance of quality cycle. Quality cycle discuss ways of improving the quality of workmanship and also reduce cost or wasteful efforts in the long run. So now let's check the impact of 2QM when poorly implemented. Setting unrealistic deadlines that may not be achieved. Also, decline in productivity because of stoppages. So now let's check how can this 2PM impact on reduction of the cost of quality. Schedule activities to eliminate duplication of tasks as well as share responsibility for quality output amongst management and workers. So develop work systems that empower employees to find new ways of improving quality. Okay, grade 12. Then at this juncture, we are going to check. The quality performance activities, and after that, then that's when we are going to say we call it the day. And surely